Hey everybody, welcome back to the series where I forgot to make 2 episodes of it, where we recap the last month that's happened inside of the war. Since the last one I did was April, I'm going to push it back a little bit and try to cover some more of the broad scope of the first half of this year. I'm pre-recording this at the end of June because me and my friends are going to turn up for a couple days, so hopefully nothing big happens that I'm going to miss and it's going to look like I'm dumb. But yeah, let's start with Bakhmut. I made the areas that each side gained blue and red because this looks confusing. The main change around Bakhmut is that Russia captured the rest of the city while Ukraine made a lot of gains on the flanks. At the time of recording this, Klishchivka and Kherson are 2 of the main points of fighting right now. Ukraine's main goal with the Bakhmut offensive is to keep Russian reserves away from the Zaporizhzhia front line while potentially pushing back up to the Bakhmutovka river. This is helped by the geography in the region where I'm going to use this program's bad topographic map, just gotta roll with me, where if Ukraine can effectively liberate Klishchivka and take the ground by Kherson, they get access to this hill right here. This hill gives them a very good positional advantage. Controlling this will allow them to have fire control of a lot of the regions nearby, and it will make artillery fire easier for if they try to push down to Tokarivka and further down towards Opitne. The main goal for the southern push is just to try to get as far as possible to threaten the Russian positions in Bakhmut to have them retreat. Up north, the main goal of the offensive is to try to push them back to the Bakhmutovka river. Re-establishing control of the heights by belgorod would be great, because this allows them to strike Soledar easier, which is the main supply hub for the settlements north of Bakhmut around it. And then from there, if the Ukrainians are able to establish control over the hills either north or south of Soledar, that's going to put it in a really bad position. Again, this is kind of like best case scenario, like wet dream stuff, but this is the goals and the reason why the pushes are happening to get to certain areas and the tactics that are going to be put in place. The main offensive goal of this is to wipe away all Russian progress in the past year, but the passive goal and what they're accomplishing is to keep the reserves away from the Zaporizhzhia front line, which I'm going to talk about right now. The first major change happened in the direction of Velika Novosilka. Hold on, let me do this step by step. Before the main offensive started, Ukraine launched a small localized counterattack inside of this region to push the Russians back across the river. It's purple, whatever, it's purple. This happened about a week before the main offensive when the Ukrainians started a battle for the heights in between Neskuchne and Rivnopil. They managed to establish a decent foothold in this area, which put the forces in Neskuchne in a bad position where they could be hit from multiple sides, so the Russians ended up retreating. From there, Ukraine launched an attack into Storozheve and managed to take the city. Okay, this is getting confusing, there's a lot of arrows. And as the Ukrainians on the west side of the river that divides the Velika Novosilka area made more progress, the Russians in Blahoddatne retreated to Urozhaine. From there, a battle took place in Tokarivka, which Ukraine won. And with that, Ukraine had captured a lot of new territory. At some point, there was a fight for Novodonetsk, where Ukraine successfully took the city, but Russians took it back with a counterattack. But Ukraine got the most important thing, which is the heights next to it. Around the beginning, they also liberated Novodarivka and Levadne, and this just left Rivnopil inside of this area. The Russian forces tried to do a large counterattack at Makarivka to draw the Ukrainian attention away from Rivnopil, but it was unsuccessful and the Ukrainians took the settlement about a week later. That's how the main counterattack happened, and now the goal is to establish control of this region right here. Because if we go back to the topographic map, you can see that this area is a lot higher than the surrounding areas. If they can get control of this, Staromayorsk is in a rough position and may have to retreat from being attacked from all sides. From there, going through Urozhaine and Zavetne-Bazhanya, they'll reach Staromlinivka. This is the most important settlement in the whole region. It's the main supply hub for the entire group, and if Ukraine can take it and get behind it, they're behind the main Russian line of defense. And they have a nice highway directly down to Mariupol. Staromlinivka is the goal of this offensive inside of this pocket. Now on to the next area. Brief note, this really doesn't have too much to talk about it. Ukraine established control of Dorozhnyanka south of Huliapole. This is good because it puts them one settlement closer to Polohi, which is the main Russian supply hub in this area and part of the main defense line. The closer the line of contact is to the main defense line, the better. This is another area where Ukraine has been pushing a lot. It's north of Robotine and south of Ryhiv. Robotine is important because it's the doorway to Tokmak, which is the main Russian supply area in this whole region. On this map, any settlements with a purple line being drawn to it is supplied by Tokmak. Any ones with a red line are supplied by Mikhailivka and Vasilivka, and orange is Polohi, and Polohi is supplied by Tokmak. So if Ukraine is able to take Tokmak, that's important because it will effectively cut supply to a lot of the region. And from there, they have a straight shot down to Melitopol, even though Russia has a ton of fortifications along this road, because Melitopol is the main goal of this whole thing. Melitopol is the supply hub to Mikhailivka and Tokmak. This is the area where Russia brings in their equipment from Crimea, which has been complicated with the destruction of the Chonhar Bridge. If Ukraine is able to effectively take take control of Melitopol, that will cut Russian occupied areas in half, and with a quick strike on the Kerch bridge that completely isolates the Kherson and Crimea Oblast from supply other than redundant means. So they won't be able to get equipment over by road. They can like fly a helicopter with a tank strapped to it or something. But that's the main goal of the push in this region. Taking Tokmak, Mikhailivka, or Polohi will cause major problems for the Russian defense line. And that's why Robotine is important, because it's the main step towards this, and the Russians have been fighting really hard to prevent the Ukrainians from getting close to Tokmak. Another area that's important is Lobkove. Oh, whoops. Hold on. I made an error. Ukraine has established control of Lobkove and Pyatihatki, which was a hard fight to get that settlement. The main important thing about the Vasilivka push is that if they're able to get past Vasilivka, the geography is absolutely flat the whole rest of the way down to Melitopol. And this blue E105 road down to Melitopol, as well as these, are lined with fortifications. But the roads that are marked in this pink-purple color that you'll call me colorblind for anyway, have hardly any, and accessing Mikhailivka is the way to get into Melitopol with no fortifications. This is the main goal of this push, is to take Vasilivka and then get behind Mikhailivka and get down to Melitopol. Woo, this video is 18 minutes long raw. This is gonna suck to edit, whatever, it's all good. The final area I want to talk about is Kherson. Kherson is interesting because the Russians blew, or the Novokhovka Dam failed somehow, which flooded the bridgehead that the Ukrainians had across here. Before the Russians blew the dam, the Ukrainians had positions all the way up to the Tonka River. The random guy who asked me to keep making that joke in the comments, you are the reason why I say that every time. But after the islands were submerged, the Ukrainians have re-established a bridgehead by the two settlements named Dachi. The main goal of this is to get a foothold inside of Oleshki and put a decent amount of troops over, but not too many, to draw the Russian reserves away from Zaporizhzhia. This seemed to be the main goal before the Russians blew the dam, but after they blew the dam, it seems like Ukraine may have tried to switch up their plan, but now it seems like they're back to this. The main strongholds on the left bank of the river are all along the river itself. These ones are Hola Pristan, Oleshki, and Novokhovka. These are the main settlements that take in supply from Crimea by Armyansk, and I doubt Ukraine is going to try to do an assault across the Dnipro River, because you remember how that worked out for Russia. That's pretty much just going to happen again. The main goal of this is to try to draw as many, I already said this, is try to draw as many reserves away from Zaporizhzhia as possible. And that's all I really got there, because I'm not too sure about the defense network on the left bank of the Dnipro River, but I'll read up on it. And that's what I got for you guys. This is gonna look really nice on the thumbnail. I hope you enjoyed that in-depth look at the tactics and the reasons behind why Ukraine is pushing in the regions where they are. And yeah, that's all I got. Happy 1st of July. I don't know when I'm gonna release this video. It'll be, yeah, whatever. All right, see ya.